Welcome to the KBB Review podcast. I'm your host, Andy Davis, and have we got some proper insight for you this week? Yes, we do. This is part one of a two-parter that will conclude next week, where I talk to some winners from the KBB Review Retail and Design Awards 2024 to get under their skin, hear their stories, and see what makes their businesses successful. Next week, we'll be meeting our Kitchen Retailer of the Year, Laings and Inverurie, and our Bathroom Retailer of the Year, Pier1 Bathrooms in Hove. Two very different businesses with two very interesting perspectives on the market and what makes a great retailer. But to kick it off today, we've got an interview that's so interesting, so insightful, and actually, if I'm honest, gives you a little bit of a warm feeling inside. As many of you will know, at our awards we give out our Special Achievement Trophy. It goes to those individuals who have contributed something very special to their business and the industry as a whole. And this year it went, very deservedly, to Paul Rowland from CP Hart. CP Hart is, of course, the premium bathroom retailer that now has 15 showrooms and a £50 million turnover. But when Paul took it over 20 years ago, it was really struggling, and he has led the team that has made it what it is today. He is the retailer's retailer. At the opposite end of the career path, we also gave out the Rising Star of the Year trophy. Now, this goes to individuals under the age of 30 who are making a real impact in their retail business. And the 2024 winner was Angelica Katarska, who started her own bathroom retail business, Angelic Bathrooms, in Northampton in 2022, aged just 22. So you can see where this is going, can't you? I thought it'd be a good idea to get them both together and see what lessons they can learn from each other, and it is fascinating stuff. Finding good people, managing through financial crises, the relationship with suppliers, finding customers, marketing, it's all in here and more besides from when Angelica and I went down to the flagship CP Hart showroom in Waterloo to see Paul. But first, today's episode is brought to you with the support of our very good friends at Laings. They lead the field in wood-based panel products, laminates and edgings with big brands such as Emporio Skin, Kronospan and many more. With over 40 vehicles in their fleet, they can provide next-day delivery on all stocked products, and you can find out all about them at lawcris.co.uk. That's lawcris.co.uk, and I'll put that link in the episode description. Paul, always a pleasure to come to Waterloo. Never bored of coming to this place. It's always spectacular. So thank you for hosting us while we're here. Angelica, this is your first visit. What do you think?
Amazing. It's incredible, isn't it?
It never ceases to amaze me how disarming it is coming around the corner, because you've absolutely no idea this place is here.
No, I didn't think I didn't know where I was walking to until I saw CP Hart and customer entrance. Walked in and I was like, am I even in the right place?
It's weird, isn't it? So you're both winners at the awards in March. Paul, you obviously are Special Achievement winner. How does that make you feel?
Very old, Andy. I called it the old man's award, but I'm very proud as well, I have to say.
Well, you've been here for 20 years, which is quite the achievement, and the CP Hart now is very different from the CP Hart of 20 years ago, so you must take some responsibility for that.
Yeah, I think, interesting enough, the senior team has stuck together over those years. When I say the senior team, I mean the decision makers and the drivers of the business, and our sales force, in fact, I think we've got a sort of 97% retention rate over those years as well. So there's roughly 30 of them out of the 60 that were there when I came. So I feel quite good about that as well.
So it's just all old.
All old, yeah, all old, yeah.
Now, Angelica, you're our 2024 Rising Star winner. So congratulations to you for that. All achievements are special when it comes to running successful businesses, I think. But I must be very proud of you because you've only been doing it for a couple of years. You're still very young. So look, give us a bit of background on your business as well. Fill in the story for us.
So I finished uni in 2020 during accounting and finance. And I thought, worked as an accountant for 2 years and I kind of hated it. I didn't like it. And my dad's been in construction for 15 years. So that's where my idea came from, opening up a showroom and doing bathrooms. So I opened up in 2022. In September, but I knew I wanted to do it from March because that's when I set everything up. I started looking at shops, and from then it just was looking for customers and finding business where I could.
So inspiring to have somebody as young, I'm not going to keep going about your age, I promise, to have the drive to do that. And it's a proper entrepreneurial exercise, isn't it? That's what I find so interesting about it. You've decided you're going to do it, and out you go and do it. Now, Paul, you on the other hand, which is the interesting contrast, not just in age, is that your background, when you go through your career, it's actually much more corporate. You started off in B&Q, went to Magnet for a long time. When you came here, what did you take from that corporate world to bring into what is a much more premium personal service boutique kind of thing?
That's an interesting question. I have to cast my mind back, because you're quite right. I'd worked for rather large companies, and coming into a small company that was in a bit of trouble, you have to really think laterally as well as east, west, and north, south. I do think, though, that because we were at that time in the Nabia group, we were able to draw on anything corporate that we needed, but at the same time had the flexibility to do the sort of things that Angelica's thinking about when you're starting off a business. And I took CP Hart and thought, this is a great brand, but it needs redirecting, reshaping with a team who are here. We had the basis of the foundation, but we just didn't have the direction. And over the first 18 months, it was just sort of sorting out the real issues and getting to the nub of what the brand was all about and going back to our roots, which I have to say involved getting rid of the kitchen business as soon as we possibly could and concentrating on premium bathrooms and relying on, to a certain extent, what our customers thought of the brand and rebuilding the business from ground up.
What I think is interesting that you did, and perhaps that does come from the corporate background, is you concentrated on brand. Obviously, B&Q Magnet, very, very strong branding exercises as well. And you came in and made the CP Hart brand something right from the beginning.
I think it had I can't say that we had to reinvent the brand. The brand was there, but it was refocusing on what we were all about from an internal perspective rather than from an external perspective. So the people within the company believed that it had lost its way because it had been taken in other directions by the previous management. So by coming back to what CP Hart really was all about, service, product, people, and what we stood for as an organisation, both for the trade, i.e. architect, designer, developer, etc., as well as for the consumer, was where I wanted to really focus the business on. And service being the number one thing, quickly followed up by product.
So have you had these thoughts, Angelica, about what your brand stands for? You know, you have a very strong image and a great story, but have you thought about the brand and what the brand means or stands for? Have you gone into those kind of depths?
So when I started, I knew, obviously my first initial thought, I wanted to work for myself. And I wanted to do bathrooms, I wanted to sell bathrooms, I wanted to be on building sites. That's what I wanted to do, but not basically doing all the plumbing work and everything else that comes with it. But ever since I opened, I've been learning as I'm going. It wasn't a clear picture of what I wanted to do from the start. Now I want to get more into contract work. Whereas at the start I was like, no, strictly residential, more for the public rather than the trade. But now I want to move more to the trade side of the business. So it's all work in progress. I mean, I've only been open for 1.5 years and it's still coming to me of what I want to do in where I want to be in 10 years' time.
Well, look, you've got Paul here. He's got these decades of experience, hundreds of years of experience. What are the issues? What are the problems? What are the areas that you would like some help with or advice?
So, for example, like building a strong customer base. How did you manage that?
I think going back to service again is the absolute key. And as we know in our industry, sometimes we're relying on the supplier's level of service. That is crucial. So starting with your supplier base to ensure that they're giving you the levels of service that you require to be able to pass on to your customers. I do think that the higher up the market or the cost base that you go, whether you're particularly if you're at the premium end, a lot of the consumers do need professionals in order to make decisions. So you may well find that you will be working not just with the consumer, but with the consumer's interior designer, interior architect or architect. And it's at that point that you can start to build relationships up with the trade. So rather than dealing with Mr. and Mrs. Consumer once every 10 years when they're in the cycle of replacing their bathrooms, and hopefully they would come back to you in 10 years' time, the professional needs to do 4, 5, 6 projects a year. And if you can get in with them, build relationships with them that can last for the next 20 years, then you are assured of their business over that period of time. All you need is 10, 15, 20 of those types of customers, and you've got what you're after, a project business. I do think you have the issue of who's going to buy the bathroom, because those professionals don't tend to buy it. Is it the consumer? Is it the contractor? And then you might have to complete the circle by making sure that you've got a decent amount of contractors that are working within the circle that you've just built. We have a lot of clients that use the same contractor. So the interior designer or the interior architect will use the same contractor. We built relationships with the contractor, with the professional, and so each each project they're doing, we've got the same setup, and we virtually, in some cases, I've got to be honest, repeat the same design. So it's almost like a cookie cutter that you're going through until you get a new set of products that come in, and the designer wants to move on to those, and then you'll be changing the design and moving on. Or something new comes into the industry, whether it be technological, whether it be a change of the whole way that the marketplace is going. As long as you're moving with that, we try to stay slightly ahead of it, but as long as you're moving with that and you're working with your designers and talking to them about what they like, you're building up this relationship, this package, if you like, and you're then not relying on Mr. and Mrs. Consumer coming in through the door, in effect, or word of mouth or marketing. And the more you do that, the less marketing you actually have to, less money you have to spend on marketing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. How do you deal with your marketing? Do you spend a lot of money and time on that, or is it just recommendations more?
Less and less and less as we've become more and more involved in the industry, and particularly with the design community in central London. So you're spending more on relationship building than you are on what people would call on-the-page advertising, or indeed search engine optimization, or PPC, and all of the traditional forms of marketing. Relationship building is the best form of marketing that you can do, without a shadow of a doubt.
That's so interesting, isn't it? Because obviously there's a relative size issue here, and you would assume that CP Hart was spending £millions every year on marketing. But actually it just shows, doesn't it, that there are lots of lessons to be learned for smaller businesses from guys like these. What are you doing for your marketing now?
Not much, your ads and Instagram, but I don't find them working, I'll be honest. Facebook ads are the worst. I mean, never found them working. So, but, keeping up with posting what I'm doing on social media, that's what draws loads of people, and using the correct hashtags as well. That's how they search you and find you.
But it's a trial and error thing, though, Paul, isn't it, about all of this kind of stuff?
I think, every business and in every industry, it is trial and error to see what works for each individual business. But I have to say that the relationship building side of things, particularly using LinkedIn, is crucial. I also think, particularly when you're starting off, and I do know that my showroom managers who are in individual parts of London or outside of London, they're involved with local community. It might be, let's say, the Lions Club, or they might be in the golf club, or they might be part of a theatre group or whatever. It's getting involved in all of the local community. And when you're doing that, you unwittingly, you're selling at the same time. You're selling yourself and effectively your business. And whether those clients meet at dinner parties or whether they meet down at the pub or the wine bar or whatever, they'll say, I've met this lovely person, and she's running a brand new bathroom business, and she seems to be really good. And it's just building up those relationships all the time. And then also, if you can get yourself involved in the local architects group of REBA, every area, Northampton will have a REBA representative, or even an SBID representative, or a BIDA. Get involved with those as well. Become part of it. It's not a lot of money to join. And then you're going along to their events, and you'll be surprised how many people you shake hands with, exchange business cards with, and then you're coming at it from another direction. So that relationship building, rather than just throwing money at advertising, is a crucial thing.
I mean, one of the big investments here is that showroom. And I guess the same trial and error thing works with that as well. Obviously, this is a phenomenal facility that you have here. You've got a big place where you have to give people a map to find their way around. But what's your philosophy of how it works? It'd be so easy to get this wrong.
Firstly, suppliers are crucial. And suppliers aren't people that you beat up or hit on the head with a baseball bat or whatever. They're partners. They're partners in your journey. They want you to be successful. And it's using their knowledge, using their understanding of the industry, making sure that you have the right suppliers to make sure that you're constantly at the forefront of their thoughts in your geographical area, in effect. And I don't know, I'm very sorry, Joe, I don't know what the competition is like or what your number one brassware supplier is, but the number one brassware supplier is the crucial one that you have to work with, because brassware is 34% of a bathroom sale on average. The higher up you go, if it's a Dornbracht sale, for example, it'll be 50%. If you're dropping down to, shouldn't be saying this, if you're dropping down to Crosswater or Vardo or any of those companies. It might be 28% or 25%, but it's crucial. And if you get your brassware offering right, you get your brassware understanding right, and your brassware partner understands what you're trying to do, they should help you on that journey. And working on them over a number of years, it becomes more and more important to understand trends, movement, new product that's coming in, being first to market, because they want you, because they know you're successful. They'd rather give it to you than, let's say, the next nearest local competitor. So it's working alongside those guys and girls as partners, as opposed to being somebody that you're trying to constantly push down on pricing. And then they can also assist with marketing and leads and all that sort of thing, because they'll trust you. If somebody makes an inquiry into their head office and they know that there's Angelica in Northampton and the client lives there, they should be passing that lead on to you. So it's working along all of that. Then as the years go by, and I'm hoping the years will go by kindly for you, you'll find that you will get that reputation with suppliers, and you'll have other suppliers wanting to come to you rather than you having to try and knock down the door of those suppliers. And your showroom will evolve on the back of that. I do think as well, is you might think it is an expense, but the trip to Frankfurt, the trip to Milan, just to try and see what's going on, even if you're just there, fly out there and back for the day and get a couple of hours at one of the fairs, keeps you at the forefront if you possibly can. You see the very latest of what they're offering.
So how are you choosing your suppliers now, Angelica? When you start from scratch, what are you looking for?
So when I first started, I knew suppliers and I knew where I was going. So I was going to Northampton. That's not the highest of end products I would sell there. No one really wants to pay the prices there. And the way I based it off was house prices selling there and the prices you've got in London. That's the way I knew what suppliers I wanted to work with. So I got in contact with them, and these were the ones that offered me, good terms or displays. We just spoke about what I wanted in the showroom. And then suppliers just started coming to me as I made myself more announced. I did open up a showroom and they started coming to me, and it was my choice whether I wanted to work with them. It was depending on what they were offering and how they were introducing the products to me, because some came unsure and I was a bit, I don't know much about you. You're not selling it enough to me, and how can I sell something that I don't know about the product? I mean, I can't open up a book in front of a customer and read from a book or an email that you sent to me from head office. I need it to be explained to me how you would explain it to a customer, basically.
It's that relationship thing, isn't it? It's absolutely that. What I've noticed over the years is, particularly the longer retailers that have been around, is that they slowly actually reduce the number of suppliers that they deal with. And there was a time, wasn't there, when showrooms would just pile stuff high and they could collect the brands. Whereas as they go on, they tend to really narrow it down and deal with a few choice suppliers based on those relationships over time. And it's a personal relationship. And that's what I find so interesting about businesses that have been around a long time. Same brands keep popping up again and again and again for a reason. That's how I look at it. So imagine, Paul, for example, if you were going to open a showroom tomorrow as Paul Rowland Bathrooms, what would be the things that you'd be looking for? How would you set a business up to be successful for the next 40, 50 years?
Well, under our new owners, Wolseley, they want us to expand, and we might have to go into territories that we feel unfamiliar with. So I'll pick a town that we don't currently deliver to. We have been looking at various places, being quite analytical about it. We use a company called Experian. We have enough data to understand our type of customers, and interestingly enough, our customers fall into 5 categories out of 72 within Experian's data analysis. This is going to sound really boring, but I'm going to carry on. You can then plot by postcode where those customers live. So, for example, one of our types of customer is global power brokers. Then you have Greenbelt Guardians and all that sort of thing. So let's say we pick Exeter as a place we would quite like to go. Using that analysis and using that data, we're able then to see what type of product they like as well. So if we were setting up a showroom, we'd be thinking about the size of it, the cost, square footage, height, but much more important is the type of product that needs to go in there, and then recruiting the people. I think Angelica's showroom is sort of roughly 1,000 to 1,200 square foot. That would be the size that we'd be looking for there. I mean, this place is 42,000 square foot, and our smallest showroom is 900 square foot. You've got to think about all of the maths from top to bottom. What's the sales? What's the margin? What are your overheads? And then you start thinking about, I've got to deliver this stuff down to Exeter as well, so those sort of costs go up. So I do think that there's a load of numerical stats and data that tell you A, where you should go, B, how much you should spend on the show, and C, what type of product you put in there. And you should also be able to calculate what your turnover is going to be from that.
Setting up businesses from scratch is a really brave thing to do. It just is, right? And particularly when you're straight out of college. How analytical are you? Because I find it's so interesting that Paul can just off the top of his head say 33% of each sale is. How analytical do you get, and how easy is it to have that analysis when you're starting from scratch?
So when I started, I had a really big support from my parents. That's where most of my support came from. I didn't have to fall into debt of getting a loan to open anything up. It all purely came from either my savings or my parents helping me. I mean, set up my showroom and displays, my dad fitted it for me. I didn't have to pay someone to go then. So I basically started off with nothing to my name, as you say, like from zero. And I just built myself up. Obviously I had to pay for displays. That's when the negatives came in. And then by the time I got customers and started, it all balanced out eventually. But I don't know if figures at the top of my head, just because I tend to look into my accounts more. I keep track of all my finances. I don't let anyone get involved in anything. I obviously it firsthand by myself, and determine if I'm doing something good or should I back down a bit or invest into something that I actually need to.
What comes across very strongly there is know your numbers. You've got to know your numbers no matter what. And I think sometimes businesses that are very design-led or creatively led can sometimes lose track of the numbers very, very easily because they want to create the vision and create the dream. And whether that's a bathroom showroom or whether that's a restaurant or whatever it is, it's very easy to erode your own margin to get the sale, and slowly it never comes back up again. So I think you're a numbers guy at heart. You always say you're not a designer; you're a numbers man.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the product, love the people, love being in the whole world of being at the forefront of a product that's fun. Kitchens, whatever you say about them, are just a load of boxes joined together. Whereas bathrooms, they're individual products. You come into contact with them, every part of your body, your skin, you're naked when you're in your bathroom. It's a place of sanctuary, all of that sort of stuff. And to have lovely individual items there that make up the bathroom is absolutely fantastic. But at the end of the day, to run a business, you've got to know your numbers. And Angelica hits the point right at the nail on the head. It's all about cash. Cash is king. You have to really think about every investment that you're going to make. Is it going to make that return, or is it a nice thing to do? And most businesses go out of business when they grow too fast because they run out of cash and they actually can't service the business that they're running because there is no cash to service it. And then other businesses fail because their service is rubbish. So those are the two main reasons why businesses fail.
I feel like businesses, what they tend to do is they get loads of money in, but they don't distribute it correctly. They just think, I just got a massive project coming my way. That's the cash for me, but they don't think about investing it into something that will make them go further. They'll just stick on that line. That's where it fails because they don't keep up with what's going on in the world.
Yeah, it's interesting that you come from an academic accountancy background rather than a design and creative background, because that comes as long as you know your numbers. The other thing is you're very much a one-man band at the moment, if you know what I mean. It's your business. You do it. It's you. But at some point, you have to have a team of people around you because otherwise, the growth that you want isn't going to happen. You're going to have to, at some point, get other people to do stuff for you and to delegate it and trust them to do it. Your team's been around a long time, but finding new people that you can trust or knowing that you can delegate tasks to people that you want to do yourself, is that still hard for you, or are you very comfortable with it?
Anybody will tell you recruiting the right people is the hardest thing to do. You're lucky if you've got a 60 to 65% success rate. 2 good, 1 bad. You're lucky if you're that high. And the thing is you have in our industry, or probably in any industry actually, the investment that goes into training and making sure that they're the right people and worrying about it and then trying to do too much for them or too little for them. It's the perennial thing. We employ 200 people. Luckily, we have a churn rate of about 3% per annum. I know some companies have a churn rate of 30% per annum. And you think that you're just effectively recruiting, training, losing, recruiting, and it just goes on and on and on. And I do think that it's all about how you treat your staff as well. But recruit hard, manage easy is the crucial thing. And if you're not quite certain, don't offer the person a job.
But there's danger, isn't it, for someone like Angelica, that you end up spreading yourself too thin you end up compromising what you are good at because you don't feel that you can trust other people.
Yeah, I mean, when I was thinking about employing people, I did put out adverts. But then when I had people or the candidates coming or emailing, it just didn't make sense. It didn't feel right because I didn't know if I could trust them. What was written on their CV was not necessarily what they knew. And to trust someone and leave them in the showroom when I'm not there, are they going to do it? I mean, I worked for people myself before. I know how it is working for someone than working for yourself. You can see how different it is. To trust someone in your business, you need to have actually full faith.
But you're going to hit a ceiling of what you are capable of doing in a day.
Yeah, and then you expect the same. Yeah, you expect the same from the people that you employ. I mean, if I'm capable of doing a project, for example, a design and from start to finish in a week, I expect the same from me. Even if you say you've been in the industry for, let's say, 10 years, then you should be doing it much faster than me.
But you are having this situation forced upon you because what you can't hear is that you are incredibly pregnant.
Oh, yeah.
When are you due?
June. I don't know.
So what are you going to do?
I haven't thought about it yet. I'm still working. And believe me, if I have projects to do, I'll do it from the bed in the hospital.
But it's a hard decision to make, is it? There has to come a point when you do share the burden.
It is a hard decision, especially what I'm going to do now, whether to keep the showroom, I need to keep the showroom open. Or do I close and go into something smaller? Or what am I going to do? It's questions that I'm thinking about every day, but I just can't make the decision. Because for one, I don't want to close it. For two, I need to find someone that I can trust. And it's all in the back of my head. What am I going to do? I mean, I'm running out of time.
So you are running out of time and there's nothing you can do about it. So what would your advice be there? But I know you're not going to have a baby, but
I was going to say, her business is her baby at the moment, but she is going to have another a real baby coming along. Maybe 99% of people want to do a good job. You know, they don't go to work not to do a good job. They don't go to do a job to wreck the place. You're going to be employing somebody that perhaps if you sell the story of the business right to somebody, you'll get somebody that may want to grow the business with you, who could end up being your right-hand man or woman within that business. Yes, the timing now is a little bit short, I have to say. You know, a lot of good people are on longer notice periods, so they might be on a 4-week notice period, they might be on an 8-week notice period. So unfortunately, you've got to make the decision quickly. Obviously, running your own business, you're wanting to get back into it as soon as possible. But please don't be cynical about recruitment. You will know in your heart of hearts when you've got somebody face to face and you're eyeballing them. Even though you are young, I can tell from meeting you, you're a pretty good judge of character, and you have to be if you're selling. If you're in sales, you can judge people. Also, you're a buyer because you're buying off suppliers. So you're sat on both sides of the table, which makes you, the best judge of character that could be. But don't be a cynic about it. But don't be a chancer either. It is recruit hard, manage easy is the mantra.
Let us know what you do, because it's going to be really interesting to follow that story. Now, let's just conclude this here with, again, the advantage of experience. What you do have is experience of running a business through every possible state of the market, whether it's a boom, whether it's a recession, whether it's a market crash, whether it's a pandemic. You've been there, done that. This is all new to you. You've already run the business for a couple of years in the market as it exists right now. What's your view on being able to manage businesses for the long term in that way, by being able to predict or analyze or just to make some kind of provision for what might come next, whatever it might be?
Let's face it, the last couple of major blips that the world economy has had, therefore the UK economy has had, have been man-made. The war in Ukraine, on top of COVID, on top of Brexit. And Brexit definitely man-made. Most people would argue COVID was actually man-made. Didn't see that one coming. And then the war in Ukraine. And then prior to that, last one was Lehman Brothers crash 2008. Can you actually see them coming down the track? I don't think you can. One thing is for sure, they happen every 7 years, without a shadow of a doubt, within a little bit of a window. But every 7 years, something will go incredibly wrong. The downturn is much faster than coming out the other side. And I think we've touched on cash reserves in the conversation earlier on. But yes, you want to invest. Yes, you want to grow. But always make sure you've got cash reserves to be able to get through, whether it's 3 months or 4 months. But be able to get through a period when sales are not coming in. I do think that they say, you've got to work really, really hard during a downturn. My view is when things are good, work twice as hard. Because if you work twice as hard when things are good, you can really take your competition on and make sure that your share of the market is maximised. If there is a downturn, A, you've got cash reserves, and B, you can be a little bit more clever in where you're going with your business and where you want to push your margins and your profitability. You may pull back on investment slightly, but it's all about using the good times in order to. It's like a squirrel, Joe, preparing for winter. You're squirreling away just in case something happens.
You've been a couple of years, and you would argue the last couple of years the market's been flat at best, horrible at worst. How easy is it for you to work out what normal is?
When I started, I didn't start off great. I was like, oh my God, am I even doing the right thing? I didn't know when I opened, I didn't have business from the get-go. It wasn't day one I opened, I'm getting sales. It was open in September. My first big project came in October, but it just started. And then, by the time you get paid, you'd look at it's next year, it's 2023 now. So it was up and down at the start, and I didn't know what was going on. I was like, oh my God, am I doing something again wrong? I couldn't get the customers. People would come. I would have loads of inquiries, but am I making the sale? Because it's either the price is not correct, or they found something cheaper online, or so much was going on. And even now, with mortgage rates, not many people even buying anything. And when it comes to renovation, I did have a client come in, said, we just bought a house, but we're not quite ready yet. We're just looking around. So when they're going to be ready, it's probably going to be like 6 months down the line. So it's a downfall, and then it goes back up. And then obviously suppliers are increasing prices. But then again, clients don't understand that everything's gone up.
But is it better to start a business when the market's in a trough rather than at a peak? You have a much more realistic view of the world, probably, through the fire of the first 3 or 4 years of business if the market is not particularly great.
I don't know. To be fair, it wasn't the greatest, as I said, since I've been in it, because I thought it would be much, smoother. And I did experience, my downfalls where I'm like, do I really close the showroom and go back to working full time? Am I meeting two ends together? I don't know. Or do I just continue and take advantage of the good times where I had all these inquiries and try to push as much as I could? And that's when 3 months were good. I've got more than I would in a previous 3 months. And then that's what kept me going. And whenever I saw an advantage, I just grabbed it. I would go out on building sites. That's how I'd find customers. That's how I got bigger projects. It was just scary because not many people would, when you went into the building site, for example, myself, I was looking for the business. There was times where I had no business and I had to go out my own way and find the customers myself. I would make a fool of myself, but it either paid off or it didn't. And when it did, that's when I was like, okay, I'm doing something right. And then obviously he had your downfalls. I had my downfalls, and it's either I'll make it work and I'll last, or I just quit now.
But don't underestimate that a willingness to graft will see you an awful long way, won't it? A willingness to do those things and to get your hands dirty actually will see you an awful long way when you're in times are tough. How are you reading the market now, Paul?
No crystal ball on this one. I've got to be honest with you. I think that the rest of the year will be flat. We've got a general election coming up as well. I think there'll be re-emphasis from the government. In other words, there'll be a change of government. Social housing, all sorts of other things will move up. It remains to see where the tax rates go and what have you. I was really pleased to hear what Angelica was doing, because I believe that the majority of retailers in the home improvement market, when times are tough, they sit there and they stare at their front door hoping it will go bing bong, and it doesn't. And if you just do nothing, you'll reap that reward. If you go out there and chap on doors, building sites, interior designers' offices, architects' offices, whichever way you can to try and drive business, I think that's absolutely fantastic what she's been doing there, because that gives me heart that I can recruit people like her that are proactive, because if you're not proactive in a downturn, you will go out of business. You have to be proactive. Yeah.
Well, look, I can't think of a better place to end it than that. And hopefully we'll be back here in 30 years' time when you're getting the Special Achievement Award. So we'll see you again in 2054. me or you are still around. I doubt it.
No comment.
So look, thank you both very much. Thank you for your hosting as always, Paul. It's always fantastic to come here.
Pleasure.
And good luck for everything that happens in the future for you.
Thank you.
So that was Paul Rowland and Angelica Katarska. And breaking news, since we recorded that a few weeks ago, she has made a decision about what she's going to do with the business once the baby arrives. She is closing the current showroom, but not the business itself. She has projects lined up for the second half of the year and is actively looking for new premises. As she says, it's just a pause while she takes on a much more important job of being a mum. So good luck, Angelica. Thanks to Paul, and I'll see you next week for part 2, where we'll be talking to our kitchen retailer of the year, Laings, and our bathroom retailer of the year, Pier1. And of course, huge thanks to today's sponsor, Lawchris. Remember, you can find out all about them at lawchris.co.uk. That link is in the episode description. I'll see you next week.